Joshua, thanks for being here with me. How long have you been making these videos specifically?
Well, I started doing the harvest videos back in 2018, and it was kind of just a one-off sort of thing, and then sort of started becoming an annual thing, and has grown a little bit each year. Collaborating with the same farm, Double Bar D Farms near Grenfell, Saskatchewan, and have developed a good relationship with them, and they've been kind enough to have me out the last 3 years, and it's been a lot of fun.
Tell me a little bit about the process that goes into this. I mean, they're pretty involved productions. What kind of equipment do you use to get these done?
Yeah, the first thing is obviously just logistics. Picking a time and day where you have the right conditions, weather-wise, um, optimal location that they're actually harvesting in, as far as being able to access it, and perhaps for the best scenery as well. They farm a lot of land, so there you can get in a day they can be in a lot of different fields in a lot of different places. So from there, once you have the right weather and the right conditions, then as far as equipment, the first year was all shot on a DJI Phantom 3, and continued to shoot with that, but then in the last 2 years it's been with a DJI Mavic 2 Zoom as well, which I think has really kind of taken it to another level. And this year was a little bit different as well, because I decided to not just, the previous 2 years had been all aerial footage, and so I wanted to try and showcase a little bit more of the in the field, on the tractor, that kind of thing, those kinds of shots. So then this year I actually spent the whole day out in the field for this video, and whereas the previous 2 years was really more like just an afternoon, and that was something that had really interested me, was getting the whole day to night sort of transition of working in the field. So in between flying during the day, then I was getting different shots mounted to the grain cart or the tractor and that kind of thing.
Absolutely. So what was the inspiration for this? Did you grow up on a farm yourself, or sort of where did this kind of come from for you?
No, I haven't. I didn't grow up on a farm myself. My dad used to farm many years ago, and we have many family and friends who either have farmed or have farming connections. So I've always kind of grown up around it. I've been on many farms and spent a lot of time around farming and in the fields at different times of the year. So I have an enjoyment and interest for it that way. And so between that and sort of my interest for filmmaking, kind of seemed like a natural combination and a really fun thing to sort of combine.
And what else have you shot? Like what else do you do? You go under Prairie Weather Media as well. So what else does Prairie Weather Media kind of do?
Well, during the summer, our focus is really on severe weather and storms. So that's kind of how the YouTube channel started, was with storm chasing. I've been doing that for about 7 years now. And then beyond that, we do a lot of scenery shoots as well. So you'll see on the channel there's usually at least one or two montages of Saskatchewan scenery every year that involve aerial shots and those kinds of things. And so that's kind of been the main focus. And then within the last 3 years here has been more kind of been incorporating some farming videos as well when possible. So it's kind of a blend depending on what's going on with the weather and that sort of thing.
How was storm season for you this year? Was it fairly active?
It was okay. A little bit tricky, I guess I would say. There were definitely lots of storm days, but some of the days that were good were kind of tricky, and you kind of had to pick and choose your battles somewhat. For us, anyways, just with timing and how other commitments work out. But no, there was the biggest thing this year was lightning. Actually, we had some really cool lightning displays that we were able to capture, and not a lot in the way of great storm structure, unfortunately, which is kind of what I'm always looking for. But usually when I chase, I'm sticking within the province, so that always kind of limits you too. You know, most of the tornado activity was more kind of in like Manitoba this year. This year in Saskatchewan is really down for tornado activity, actually.
Excellent. And I guess going back just real briefly to the harvest video, Double D Farms, from the video, it looks like a fairly large operation. So it's probably larger than, you know, a lot of farmers, kind of, even some of the farmers kind of around here. And it was off near Grenfell, if I understand correctly.
Yep.
Um, but it seems like farming is such a universal across southern Saskatchewan that any what struck me about the video was that anybody can kind of look at it and kind of get a sense of, okay, I recognize this. This feels like kind of home to me, which is actually what led me to the question about whether or not you yourself grew up on a farm. And you've kind of answered it previously in terms of, you know, your father was a farmer and stuff like that. But where does the natural sort of feel for how to capture a good harvest shot? Like what do you think your videos sort of say about, you know, a good old fashioned Saskatchewan harvest?
Well, for me, particularly speaking about this year's video in particular, is I really wanted to show the full day, like I said before. And yeah, you said, you know, they're a larger farm than a lot of other farms that you might typically drive by in the province. But the principle in the operation is still the same, whether the equipment's the largest you can get or the smallest you can get. Um, and so that to me is kind of the interesting thing, because there's a lot of people that live in different parts of the world, they don't see this kind of stuff, right? And so I kind of try and approach it with that perspective of people who have no familiarity with farming or agriculture, and just kind of and then being able to just kind of blend showcasing the scenery and beauty of the province and the land, along with kind of the technological marvel, if you will, of all of this equipment working together, um, and and just the scale of it all, right? So, kind of trying to manage showing the scale of the operation, but then also sort of the finer details of how it all gets done, um, you know, machine by machine. And so actually there's a second video that's yet to be released from this year that actually shows, I think, a little bit more of the scale of that whole operation, that I'm really excited for people to get to see as well.
Is there a sense of showing people who are maybe not familiar with farming, you know, where their food comes from?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a lot of the, I think farming, you see that in a lot of farming videos on YouTube in the last few years. um, Farming videos on YouTube, I think, have really taken off, both from people who actually are familiar with farming or are farmers themselves. They're interested in what other people do or what other equipment other people use. But then there are also those people that have no idea how life on a farm works every day. So there are many YouTube channels out there that are actual farmers themselves that are showcasing their everyday life. Of course, I'm not in that position, but I instead sort of approach it as giving it a little bit of a cinematic sort of look of different times of the year of working in the field. So earlier this year, shot a shorter video of seeding and spraying going on out at the farm. And but for me, I always enjoy harvest time, and so that's kind of what I like to focus on.
Absolutely. And the channel, you said in the beginning, the channel has been growing. Have you noticed that it's been growing internationally, as far as other countries kind of seeing how Canadians do things on the Canadian farm, or has it been mostly just sort of local growth so far?
I think it's a little bit of both, but certainly certainly I've noticed that the farming videos are by far the most popular, and I mean, you can read into that however you want, but I think there is a lot of international interest because either because of the equipment that's showcased. Some people have an interest in seeing that kind of equipment working, and some people simply like to see the geography of the farmland, right? And how it's sort of, there was somebody that commented this year on how in those shots of the field, it's funny how it can look flat, but it's also not flat. You can see how the land really has rolling hills, and you'll see even more of that, I think, in the second video this year. Is everybody talks about how Saskatchewan's so flat and everything, but then you get out into a field and you see combines going, on slopes and hills like this, and you see these big pockets of trees and valleys, and it's something that you don't really appreciate if you're just driving along the road, but when you kind of get up in the air, I think that's something that a lot of people are really attracted to.
Absolutely. Joshua, thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Joshua Zorn, Prairie Weather Media on YouTube. You can check out his YouTube channel just by doing the search there. Thanks again. You have a great day.
You as well. Thanks so much for having me.
All right. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
You too. Bye.